Let me ask you a question. What if just 1 week could change the entire course of your life? What if 7 days from now, you looked in the mirror and didn't just see a different face, but a different future? Well, I'm living proof it's not only possible. It's predictable if you change your habits. You see, success doesn't respond to luck, it responds to discipline. And discipline starts with daily habits. The right ones, small hinges swing big doors, my mentor used to say, and he was right. So here are the 5 habits that changed my life in just 1 week. And they can change yours too. The way you begin your day determines how you live your day. I realized that the biggest difference between drifting through life and moving toward a purpose starts in the first few minutes after waking up. For a long time, I used to hit the snooze button, check my phone, and rush into the chaos. And every day felt like a repeat, unfocused, reactionary, and draining. But one habit shifted everything. I began waking up with intention. Instead of reaching for my phone, I sat in silence. I took deep breaths. I expressed gratitude, not for what I hoped to have, but for what I already had. This changed my emotional state immediately. I wasn't chasing peace later in the day. I started my day with peace. Then, I focused on my goals. Not a long list, just 1 or 2 clear things I wanted to accomplish that day. I imagined myself doing them successfully. This simple habit gave me clarity and confidence. Within days, I noticed a powerful change. I wasn't reacting to life, I was designing it. I was no longer a victim of urgency, but a leader of my time and energy. I had taken control of my mindset before the world could influence it. Most people lose the battle before they leave their bedroom. But if you win the morning, you win the day. And when you string enough victorious mornings together, you win the week, the month, and the year. Success doesn't start with a big event. It starts with a small decision repeated consistently. That decision, for me, was to wake up with purpose. Not when I felt like it, but every single morning. And that one habit changed everything. Reading changed the way I thought, and the way I thought changed the way I lived. For years, I underestimated the power of consistent learning. I assumed breakthroughs came from big events or lucky moments, but I was wrong. Real transformation came the day I committed to reading just 10 pages a day. It didn't sound like much, barely a chapter, but that was the secret. It was small enough to do daily, but powerful enough to create momentum. Every morning, I opened a book that would grow me personal development, leadership, mindset, success principles. As I turned each page, I felt like I was having a one-on-one conversation with the greatest minds in history. I wasn't just reading words. I was absorbing strategies, lessons, and new perspectives. And soon, those ideas began shaping my decisions, my habits, and my vision for the future. The amazing thing is how quickly those 10 pages add up. In 1 week, that's 70 pages. In a month, over 300. In a year, more than 600. That's dozens of books, dozens of mentors, guiding your thinking. And here's the real truth. Success is 80% mindset and only 20% mechanics. If you want to change your life, change the way you think. And if you want to change how you think, start by changing what you read. That small habit of daily reading gave me focus, wisdom, and clarity. It reminded me every morning that I was responsible for who I became. While others scrolled aimlessly or drowned in distractions, I was sharpening my mind, quietly, consistently, intentionally. And in just 1 week, my thinking began to elevate. And when your thinking rises, your entire life follows. That's the power of 10 pages a day. There's something powerful about putting pen to paper. I had heard countless successful people talk about writing down their goals, but I never took it seriously until I did. And when I started writing down 3 specific goals every single morning, everything began to shift. I didn't set vague intentions like be productive or work hard. I got specific. I wrote goals that were actionable, clear, and achievable within the day. For example, instead of writing work on my business, I wrote email 3 clients or outline 1 new product idea. That clarity brought focus, and focus brought results. The act of writing made my goals feel real. They weren't just floating thoughts in my mind anymore. They were commitments. And something powerful happens when you see your goals in your own handwriting. Your mind starts treating them like instructions, not suggestions. I started moving through the day with a stronger sense of direction. I wasn't just staying busy. I was being productive with purpose. Another thing I noticed was how it created momentum. When I completed those 3 goals, I felt accomplished, even before the day ended. That feeling carried into the next day, and then the next. And when you stack wins like that, even small ones, you start building confidence. You stop waiting for motivation and start building it through action. Most people spend their days reacting to what life throws at them. But writing down 3 clear goals each morning helped me get ahead of the chaos. It gave my day structure and intention. In just 1 week, I noticed I was achieving more with less stress. Not because I worked harder, but because I worked smarter. That simple habit of writing down my goals turned scattered effort into focused action. And that made all the difference. Before I made exercise a daily habit, I used to think physical activity was just about staying in shape. But I quickly realized it's about far more than appearances. It's about energy, discipline, and mental clarity. The moment I committed to moving my body every single day, everything else in my life began to function better. It wasn't about running marathons or lifting heavy weights. It was simply about creating momentum first thing in the day, 30 minutes of walking, stretching, push-ups, or whatever got my heart rate up and my body awake. Within just a few days, I noticed a difference. My mind felt sharper. I was more focused. I had more patience and less stress. Physical movement began to unlock mental strength. I found myself more emotionally balanced and more in control of my decisions. Where I once felt sluggish and easily distracted, I was now alert and engaged. The discipline it took to exercise daily began to bleed into other parts of my life. I became more consistent with my routines, more committed to my goals, and more confident in my ability to push through resistance. That's the hidden gift of movement. It trains your willpower. When you show up for your body, you're training yourself to show up for your dreams. This habit taught me that energy is everything. You can have all the goals in the world, but if you're constantly tired, you won't act on any of them. And energy doesn't come from coffee or shortcuts. It comes from movement, from oxygen, from honoring your body. In just 1 week, this habit gave me more clarity, more stamina, and more drive. It didn't just strengthen my body, it strengthened my identity. I began to see myself as someone who takes control of their day, 1 rep at a time. One of the most life-changing habits I adopted was learning to say no. At first, it felt uncomfortable. I didn't want to disappoint people or miss out on opportunities. But I began to notice something every time I said yes to something that didn't align with my priorities. I was saying no to something that did. My time, energy, and focus were constantly being pulled in different directions, and I wasn't moving forward. I was just staying busy. So I started getting intentional when a request came my way, an invitation, a task, a distraction. I paused and asked myself, does this move me closer to my goals? If the answer was no, I declined, not out of arrogance, but out of alignment. I realized I didn't need to please everyone. I needed to protect my focus. The power of saying no gave me space to say yes to what truly mattered. In just a few days, I felt lighter. My schedule became clearer. My mind was less cluttered. I had more time to work on what I cared about, and more energy to do it well. I stopped feeling overwhelmed, not because life got easier, but because I became more selective. Every no became an act of self-respect. Every boundary I set became a building block for the life I was creating. The truth is, you can't do everything, and you shouldn't try. Focus isn't about doing more, it's about doing what matters most. The habit of saying no gave me the clarity to focus, the strength to prioritize, and the freedom to grow. In 1 week, it gave me control over my time and my direction. And once you learn to protect your time, you start to protect your future. When I began focusing on small daily habits, I wasn't expecting dramatic change. I thought real transformation required huge leaps or faltering decisions, but I was wrong. What changed my life wasn't one big moment. It was small, intentional choices made consistently. That's the truth most people miss. Your future is shaped not by what you do occasionally, but by what you do every single day. Each of the habits I adopted, waking up with purpose, reading, setting goals, exercising, and saying no, were simple on their own. But together, they created a wave of momentum that I couldn't ignore. I started thinking clearer. I began showing up with more energy. I felt more in control of my time, my focus, and my future. What seemed small on day 1 started feeling powerful by day 7. There's something incredible that happens when you stack small wins. Your confidence grows. Your belief in yourself expands. You stop waiting for motivation and begin relying on discipline. The more consistent I became, the more progress I saw. And that progress created its own motivation. It was no longer about willpower. It became a lifestyle. Most people are waiting for the right time to start. They want a new month, a new year, or a perfect plan. But change doesn't wait. You don't need a new year to transform your life. You need a new habit, and it doesn't take a lifetime. Sometimes it takes just one focused week. I realized that if I could change my habits, I could change my identity. I stopped calling myself stuck, tired, or unmotivated. I started calling myself focused, driven, and disciplined, and it all started with a few small steps taken daily. Those steps became routines. The routines became a rhythm. And the rhythm became a new life.